It's Monday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. Welcome to Monday, Columbus Day, or Indigenous People Day. And because it is a holiday, many of the guys bailed on me, but one true stalwart of sports in America, Dave Shannon, has remained hostage in a house somewhere in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Of course, yes. Coveted by his loving sports. And, of course, man, you got to be in your glory this time of the year. You got football. Man, you got baseball. I mean, you got hockey. I mean, you got sports, my man.
Oh, yeah. This is a great time of the year. Sometimes you just don't have enough hours in the day. Even just for one sport in particular, baseball, there's so many games on here during the division series that it's difficult to keep up with them all. Even right now, as we speak, we have Nats, Dodgers, and we have Red Sox and Indians.
Oh, man.
That are on at the same time right now.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that coming up in a later segment about that whole thing because, you know, there's some surprises in the National League and also the American League Division Series that are underway. But let's get to the real matter. Of course, Big Ben, of course, the Steelers had a great day yesterday as they went on to victory to defeat the New York Jets. And, you know, the Jets have been having their problems throughout the season. But without saying that, Ben is on a tear this year, Dave, and we'll touch on that briefly. The guy's setting records. I think 3 games, like 9 touchdowns. I mean, just this ungodly amount of yardage and passing. We watched some balls get dropped yesterday, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But here again, yesterday, one of the things that I did make note about in that 31-13 win over the Jets is there was a kid named Chris Hubbard who started yesterday. You may not remember this guy, but he kind of stepped in at right tackle with Marcus Gilbert, who was out. He sort of went unnoticed the whole game, but he was a real part of that game yesterday against that menacing Jets defense, keeping them at bay and keeping them off of Ben. And it was basically a penalty-free game. What do you say about, here again, Tomlin's theory, the next guy up, man?
Oh, it's been amazing, and that's a credit to the player personnel people that you can fill a roster with that many good players that it does turn into the next player up kind of deal because, you know, a lot of times if you have a better player and he doesn't make it through and ends up on the practice squad, that's kind of place where teams will go shopping in case they need, you know, they end up with an unexpected couple of injuries.
Right.
And they need to replace a player, so they cherry pick your practice squad roster because sometimes people, you know, teams will hide better players there. The Steelers have been lucky to get away with having these better players, some of whom have been down on the practice squad rosters.
Right.
And been able to hold on to them so that they can bring them up and have them in these situations.
And this really goes back to the draft situation. Sometimes we don't notice as fans exactly, you know, when you go through the draft, maybe 2-3 years ago, you all but forget some of these people that they may have picked up who we may not see for, well, consequently, 3 or 4 years. In the case of Chris Hubbard, up until, like, actually yesterday, I had no idea this guy was even on the squad. I haven't even had a chance to check, his background yet, but obviously he was somebody that they knew was going to produce.
Yeah, and once again, as I say, this goes back to player personnel simply because, and this has been a stalwart, and I know there have been different people now at various times in the Steelers organization to have that position. But the Rooney family and what they adopted as their method for selecting a player personnel head has obviously played out consistently over the course of time. The one thing that I have always felt that the Steelers, better than any other team that I know of, were able to look at someone on their roster and say, he's done. He has reached his pinnacle, and he's starting to go on the downhill trend. And people will be all bent out of shape because they're still playing well.
Right.
But the Steelers do not want to invest themselves into somebody of that nature who's on the downhill side. And they get rid of them. And, yeah, they may have a good year when they go somewhere else, but they end up fading away in a pretty big hurry. One guy comes to mind, just was at the Steelers game on that Sunday night game, being inducted into the Hall of Fame, Kevin Green.
There's a good example, yeah.
Yeah, and they let Kevin go, and there were a lot of people that were really bent out of shape over them getting rid of Kevin Green. And as it turned out, I think he had one and a half seasons after that where he was really relevant in the NFL.
Yeah, he still had something in the tank. Yeah, he still had something in the tank. Yeah. Now, here's something about that thing that happened yesterday with Hubbard, as I even read even further some of the articles about this guy. He actually, yesterday, started his first career start. That was yesterday. However, he's been in 12 games during 3 seasons. And they asked him for a quote after the game, and his quote was simply this, and it makes a lot of sense. He said, quote, "It was a great feeling. It was a fun time, a great experience, and I'll never forget it. It was amazing to be out here with that group of guys that I've looked up to for many years, to play with those guys. It's an amazing feeling." Then he goes on to say, well, you know, you don't want to be noticed. I just wanted to keep number 7 clean and just fill in the hole and make sure everything went well, end quote. That is Chris Hubbard, and I just wanted to make mention of that before we get into some of the other things, because linemen sometimes don't get the acknowledgement that they obviously should. And with Gilbert out yesterday, well, Hubbard stepped right up, and he did a fine job of keeping number 7 clean. Let's talk about number 7 and his performance, and the performance of, well, let's talk about Sammy Coates. 2 touchdowns yesterday to Sammy Coates. Jesse James is in the mix. There go again, Antonio Brown. They just had a hell of a great game yesterday, man.
Well, and one guy you don't want to forget about that in that discussion is Le'Veon Bell.
True.
Who made quite a number of receptions out of the backfield,
right, on
screen passes or, you know, just short dink passes that he turned into big gains because of his ability to run after he catches the football. I was really quite perturbed at a certain point in the football game, to the point where I was saying, take Coates out.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right now, the guy can't catch a ball.
Yeah.
Well, what's he do? You know, after I'm at a point where I would just yank him off the field, and it's like, we have other guys that can play that. Get him out.
Yeah.
And as soon as I'm thinking that to myself,
yeah,
what's he do? He goes and catches another touchdown pass.
Well, we're there again. So, yeah, I had Jeff Speck was with me at the house, and some other folks watching the game yesterday. By the way, happy birthday to Jeff Speck of Honey 103.5. It was his birthday yesterday, so we threw a little soiree, if you will, during the game. But I just found out that Sammy Coates actually had his hand bandaged on Monday. He required stitches. He said it had no impact on his play, although we watched him drop the ball, and I thought maybe during the game, Dave, remember yesterday was like the a cancer awareness day. Some guys wore the shoes, some guys wore the gloves. It seemed to me everybody they threw the ball to that had the pink gloves, Sammy Coates, they dropped the ball and then came back in the second half and changed their gloves, and then they caught them. So I kind of I'm watching this, that he dropped several passes yesterday. He now requires stitches, so I've got to believe it wasn't the gloves. It had to be some injury that he had to his hand.
Oh, yeah, you could see him favoring. And the one time they slowed down one of his his attempted catch of a pass.
Right.
And they slowed it down, and you could see he was pulling his left hand away. That he didn't want to feel that, you know, he was kind of ouching on it before he even had the football.
Right.
And so that's too, when I saw that, it's like, just take him out.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
If his hand's bothering him that badly,
well, he said
him out of the game.
He wanted to keep playing the game. He said, you know, you can't let it get to you. The team's counting on you. And, you know, here again, and we'll talk about this later in the show, too, about concussion protocol. Here again, you know, guys don't want to come out when they have concussions. And when they have something, maybe a leg injury, or maybe their hand's injured, they don't want to come out because you only get to play every 7 days, you know, and it's like it's a short season to them, 16 games. Matter of fact, there is a quote that Coates had yesterday. Let me see if I can pull this up just to see what he had to say after the game. Dave Shannon, by the way, on the airnetwork.net. It's Monday Night Sports Talk with Greg Banks in the studio. Dave Shannon, by the way, now in Altoona. And Dave, you know, just about the time I want to run this quote, and I pull up this video. They run a commercial. Oh, my God. What the hell is wrong with this? Hold on a second, Dave. We'll get this straightened out. This is what happens in the studio at the last minute when you say, well, that looks like a nice little video. I can run the audio.
That's a monster of a prize. Keep on scratching.
Well, at this particular juncture, I am not able to hear.
Here we go. Can you hear it now?
So
No,
I
can't.
Stepped up in that role and, communicated more and just told us some of the things we should know and the tendencies they did.
Collectively, how do you guys think you did with Cam not being there?
I think we stepped up in a major way, and everybody boosted up their play and stepped into that role.
Just got to keep working, just like you said, injuries happen. So,
This is Artie Burns.
when it happens, you just got to be ready and go out there execute.
Well, Greg, you're going to have to translate for me
All right.
because I
Well,
haven't heard a thing.
Yeah, well, okay. Unfortunately, what they're doing is they're switching videos. They had an interview with Artie Burns and with Sammy Coates. And Sammy Coates said, well, the most important thing for him was just staying positive and staying in the game. So that's the translation that I got. And that's a good thing because, again, next man up. It wasn't like there was nobody else to go to other than Sammy. But, again, he wanted to stay in the game, Dave. So that's just typical Pittsburgh Steeler football, though, right?
Yeah, but there's a point where even though you have that desire to play and you want to be a teammate and
Right.
you want to support your other guys, your team, there's a time when you have to step away and say, I'm not really helping the team out right now, and it's probably a good idea for me to go ahead and sit out until maybe next week I'm in better shape. And it's so tough to do that. You start the game
Right.
with a touchdown reception right off the bat.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's like you don't want to walk away. You have such a great start in a game, and you just don't want to walk away from it after that. But obviously it was a problem. And when as I say, you could see him almost, as they say, ouching before he got the pass the one time. It's like, I'm sorry, I know what he's saying. I know it's like a pitcher in baseball.
Right.
And a manager goes out to make a pitching change. It's like, no, I got this.
Yeah, I don't want to go out. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where, as the head coach in the case of football, you have to sit there and you have to say, I've been watching him and I know he says, there's nothing wrong and he's okay and he wants to be out there. But the bottom line is he's not helping us out right now. So let's just go ahead, and we have other guys, like you said, that are capable of catching passes. Let's use those guys.
Right.
Coates, when he's healthy, is really pretty darn good. But I'll tell you what were there 5 passes that hit him in the hands in an area where he should have caught them that he never caught?
Right. Well, here again, though, the final was 31-13. The Steelers are now 4-1-0. And, of course, they're going to continue to do well. Scoring yesterday, actually, field goal by Nick Folk for the Jets, put them on the board, 3-0. Coates then with that 72-yard pass from Ben to get it on the board. Then it was 7-3. Of course, Folks back with another field goal for the Jets. Brandon Marshall, he gets in the mix yesterday, but that was pretty much all the scoring that the Jets had throughout the game. We had Jesse James involved in a touchdown. Of course, Boswell.
Because Sammy Coates couldn't catch the pass on the play before. I'll
Exactly.
just throw that in there.
Yeah, and that's true. That's true. But he, you got to remember earlier that 72-yard bomb. I mean, that was all that and more. But there again, Sammy Coates back on the board again later in the game with another touchdown. Antonio Brown, 5-yard touchdown. Thank God we were sitting here betting on whether or not he was going to give it 1 or 2 humps or what he was going to do. And I think all he did was, if you saw it, he walked to the stands and handed the fan the ball. And
somebody had a big head, Antonio Brown head, and that's who he gave the football to. There was a brief hug.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah. Yep, and that was the end of that.
And I was going to ask Ike Taylor on Wednesday night, if there is any locker room talk, because he's privy to a lot of this stuff, that Tomlin had with Antonio Brown prior to that game. And I'm sure he had. I'm sure he did. Well, the final score, by the way, was Sammy Coates catching that 5-yard pass from Ben. And, of course, as we said, Steelers winning that 31-13. Moving forward, Dave, as the Steelers.
Hold on just a sec, though, Greg.
Yeah.
There was a point there, and we had talked about this last Monday.
All right.
I thought that was a critical game for the Steelers.
Yes.
Because they have a habit of, and in all honesty, you had to look at the Jets game.
Oh, yeah.
And say, that's a game we win. Okay.
That's a game we win, but those are the games we usually lose.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, after the first half, I had my doubts because that was 14-13 at the end of the first half.
Right. Yeah.
And that was because the Steelers scored a touchdown late in the first half because the Jets had the 13-7 lead.
Yeah, I think that was just before halftime when they got that touchdown.
Yeah.
Was that the Jesse James touchdown, I think, with about, I think there was 41 seconds on the clock at that time. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Bottom line was, I'm sitting here thinking, I'll tell you what. But to the credit of the Steelers, and this goes back to real old-time football, and that is you go in at halftime, you take a look at everything that's going on, all the defensive guys get together, make some changes in their approach in how they're going to play the defense in the second half, and come out and just dominate the game defensively in the second half.
Oh, yeah.
Tip of the cap to them that they at least were able to hold things in check pretty much in the first half, keeping the Jets to the field goals on a couple of possessions, and then come out in the second half and just shut them down. And that's good stuff.
That's testament,
tip my cap to them.
And I do too. And we'll look further down the road here. I was just trying to look at what's happening on this schedule. Of course, the Dolphins coming up on Saturday. And the Patriots just had, let me ask you this, Dave, as we move from the Steelers real quick. In light of some of these games they have coming up, the Dolphins, I don't know if that's going to be difficult, but with the day that Tom Brady had yesterday, his return after, 4 games out, man, he lit up. he lit up the field yesterday in that win that they had, the Patriots. It was as if he was thumbing his nose at Goodell. I think Goodell might have been sitting back at home or wherever he was, hoping that Brady would not come back and would be rusty. And I got to be quite honest, the guy did not look like he missed a beat at all, man.
Well, just remember, too, they were playing the Cleveland Browns.
True that, yes. True that.
You know, that's something we have to take into account. I'm not saying Tom Brady he didn't miss a beat.
But a great practice. It was a great practice against a B team or B squad.
But bottom line is, the guy's good, okay? And there are aspects of Brady that have been, he's cool under pressure and what I mean by that is at the ends of games when he needs to put a drive together, he can do that.
He's a guy that you count on. I mean, he is sort of like, reminds me of the old Bart Starr days or even John Elway. At the end of the game, you want those guys in your backfield, man,
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. He responds to that pressure well, but if your defense can put pressure on him in the pocket, he turns into a mediocre quarterback.
Right. I don't think that happened yesterday because there was no defense on the Cleveland side.
Exactly. And this is where the Steelers, if they're going to do well against the Patriots and Brady,
on Sunday, right?
Are going to have to step up on defense, go back to the idea of trying to get some sacks, putting the pressure on, and relying on your secondary to take care of what they have to do to keep the Patriots off the scoreboard. That's what that game is going to boil down to. Ben and the offense, I think, are going to do whatever they're going to do. They seem to be able to adapt pretty well.
Right.
There are times when the running game isn't as good as I'd like it to be, but you know what? The NFL is completely different, Greg, from the days that you and I grew up with it, when passing was something you did on third down when you had to.
Right.
And it was like in the old days, you ran the football.
Yeah.
Then if it was third down and 8 or third down and 12 or whatever, bigger yardage on third down, it was like, well, we're going to pass now.
Yeah.
And then, after that's over, you go back and you start running the ball again. Well, it's a completely different game from what it was back then. and passing is almost the primary thing. If you have a good enough quarterback, that's your primary choice now.
Well, those
as
are
an offense.
Well, two of the best, I believe, will be on the field coming up on Sunday. Of course, in the NFL.
When you have that Patriots-Steelers game, you're going to see two of the best in the NFL.
And that will be a showcase indeed. One of the classy things that I saw over the weekend in that Cleveland game with the Patriots was a touchdown by Johnstown's Andrew Hawkins, Artrell's brother. Artrell played for Cincinnati for years and also ended his career with the Patriots. But Andy Hawkins scored a touchdown. He put the ball down at the end zone. He swiftly turned around and marched to the bench. And you don't see that anymore. I mean, there was no showboating, but it was obviously something that the media took to today. It's streaming all across America, and it's on every sports show, and the idea is this is what you do when you score a touchdown. Then they show the Andrew Hawkins film, and I'm so proud because I watched the kid grow up. And it is so neat when you see that because he basically was making a statement without making a statement. Does that make sense, Dave? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. No, it is extremely refreshing to see that. Man. And it extends across the board. I've talked about this on Monday Night Sports Talk in the past. I really am tiring of the celebrations when somebody does sack a quarterback, okay?
Oh, yeah.
That's what you get paid to do.
How about that?
You did it once. Go back to the huddle and play the next play.
Hey, conversely, how many times did you scream yesterday when the ball hit Sammy Coates' hands and he dropped it? It's like, dude, you get paid to catch the ball. I don't know how many times I screamed at my television.
Yeah,
dude, you get paid, especially when it hits you right in your hands.
Yep, tough to take, no doubt about it.
I wish I could make $1 million because I do everything right. But anyhow, Monday Night Sports Talk. Dave and I don't get paid much, but what we do get paid is we're investing it. Yeah, we're buying stock. Dave Shannon live in Altoona tonight. It is Indigenous People Day. Columbus Day. Listen, before we go any further in sports, I don't know what the holiday really signifies, but there was nobody in downtown Huntington today. The post office was closed. The banks were closed. Not that I was going to get any money anyhow. There were ATM machines. But I said to one of the shopkeepers, it's like, wow, it's quiet down here. Dave, there was not a vehicle in sight downtown Huntington today for
looked like a Sunday afternoon.
Oh, my God.
Huntington.
Exactly. It was like one of those days. And she told me, she was, why? My kids had school today. Well, I don't know what school they go to, but for the most part, this is probably for another show, but you'd think they ought to just stay in school. I mean, on those kind of holidays to learn about maybe what Christopher Columbus was to America and what the true story was. And I mean, don't you think instead of giving them the day off, I don't know.
They have the school calendars basically set up anymore that every once a month you're going to have at least.
Oh, you're gonna have a day off, yeah.
So that's just the way it is. It wasn't that way for us.
Well, there are probably teachers out there right now going, boo, hey, listen, we need that day off. You don't know. We're putting up with all this crap from these kids.
Let's move back to sports.
Let's move back to some of this football action. Exactly. Dave Shannon live in Altoona, Greg Banks in the studio. It's Monday Night Sports Talk. We do this every Monday night with more guys, but they got the night off. Cowboys, they win another game, and Dak Prescott is the hero. But I'm still hearing Jerry Jones, and I'm hearing some of the really hardened Cowboy fans saying, yeah, but when Tony comes back, he's still our leader. Man, I think we touched on this a little bit last week, but for the benefit of those not listening, Dave, what was your take on that? Does Prescott stay in there until he runs out of momentum, or do you bring Tony back and screw up this whole offense? Because Cowboys are winning, man.
Yeah, and the theory that I apply to this, Greg, is the same theory that you use in the Stanley Cup playoffs. When you have a hot goalie, it doesn't matter if he was your starter all year.
Right.
You stick with a hot goalie. And in this particular case, you have a hot quarterback. I keep putting that guy out there until he proves that to me in some way that he's incapable of continuing to provide that kind of leadership for
that
team.
He's had no interceptions yet after 5 games.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? And he's only scoring.
In the NFL to do that.
For a rookie.
That speaks volumes.
Oh, no doubt for a rookie. But, I mean, what is it that you think these Cowboy fans are holding on to? I mean, dreams of obviously yesterday. But, I mean, because here's a guy that's prone to injury, talking of Romo, and they're saying in 3 weeks he could be coming back, and they want him to start.
I think there's probably a loyalty there, and there's a sympathetic aspect of this. There's a sympathy value for Tony Romo because of the fact that he has been injured so often, and they just want to see the guy finally have a good season and be able to make it through a whole season. And it's his team. So, but hey, that's not the way it is.
No, that's not the real world, man. But welcome to the real world. We'll see how this all pans out for the Cowboys. And here's the other surprise, Dave. The Vikings are 5-0. The only undefeated team in the pros. I mean, that came out of nowhere, right?
Oh, yeah, and you consider the losses that they've had there as far as their players. You lose your quarterback, and then you lose your star running back. And it's like, so what?
Sam Bradford's looking like a hero right now because of that.
Absolutely.
Here's a guy that almost didn't even have a job this year.
Yeah. No,
wow, that's incredible.
That's a real credit to the Vikings organization. And anybody that thinks that's a fluke, you don't go 5 games in the NFL, remain undefeated, and that's not a fluke, folks.
Exactly. It's Monday Night Sports Talk. We're going to take a break. We'll come back, talk about Pitt, Penn State. Also, in addition to that, Major League Baseball, those wild card, and I should say, at least the division races are underway, and some of them are about to end, and Sydney is under the weather. We'll tell you about that and more coming up next here on Monday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. Stick around. Grab the Big Kahuna, the 24-cut square cut pizza with your choice of topping for only $19.99 now at All American Pizza and Subs at 512 Washington Street in downtown Huntington. All American Pizza and Subs has delivery, and they're your home for great pizzas, subs, salads, wings, and more for lunch, dinner, or a late-night snack. If you're thinking about great food at a great price, stop by or call All American Pizza and Subs in downtown Huntington. Call 643-0222. Closed Mondays. All American Pizza and Subs. Like us on Facebook.
Brenneman's Meat Markets are celebrating nearly 70 years in providing Huntington County with quality USDA-approved processed pork, chicken, and beef products. Brenneman's has 2 locations in the county where the tradition of the finest meats are found in the region. Stop by Brenneman's Huntington weekdays from 8 to 6, Saturdays 8 to 3. Mount Union, open 9 to 5 weekdays and 9 to 2 on Saturdays. Choose specials of $10 to $50 meat packs containing your favorite meats. Or stop by and ask about our select custom cuts, prepared and packaged while you wait. Brenneman's Meat Markets in Huntington and Mount Union. Call our office at 814-643-2751 for specials and more information.
Mel's Concrete in Huntington has over 20 years experience in providing you with quality concrete work. When you have any job dealing with concrete, call Mel Woomer at 643-0909. Mel's Concrete specializing in porches, patios, basements, sidewalks, and more. Mel's Concrete also specializes in snow removal. There's no job too big or too small when it comes to concrete. Call Mel's Concrete, LLC at 643-0909.
Pennsylvania Highlands Community College provides you the option to earn an associate degree, diploma, or certificate at an affordable cost. The Penn Highlands Huntington Center, located on Margie Drive in Huntington, offers degree programs in business management, criminal justice, liberal arts and sciences, and psychology. Are you ready to take the next step on your career path? Contact Penn Highlands Huntington at 814-643-6200 or visit Penn Highlands Community College online at pennhighlands.edu.
It's Monday Night Sports Talk. Greg Banks in the studio. Dave Shannon live from Altoona tonight. This is also the home of the Ike Taylor Show, Wednesday evenings at 10 o'clock now because of our West Coast friends. Ike Taylor, join him along with John Harris with all the NFL news and, of course, Steeler news here Wednesday nights at 10, the home of the Ike Taylor Show, the airnetwork.net. Hey, Dave, I thought Maryland, being that they were, I believe, 4-0, was going to come in to Penn State and maybe mess things up. But, hey, not to be, as the Lions defeat Maryland 38-14 over the weekend, man. Huh?
Yeah, it's a very encouraging thing, I think, for Penn State. Of course, you're going to get knocked back on your rear ends again when you play Ohio State.
It's coming.
But, but that being said, you take the wins as they present themselves. And to be honest with you, after seeing Michigan State be handled reasonably well by BYU over the weekend, I don't know. It could set up after Ohio State. The Nittany Lions could end up with a really decent record by the end of the season. Will they go to one of the prime games? Don't think so, but, they'll go to one of the medium,
Michigan
one of the
State.
Outback Bowls or something like that.
Yeah, I believe Michigan State and Indiana and some of those schools are in the same division as Penn State.
Right.
So there's a likelihood, but as I look at their schedule going forward, too, it ain't going to be it's going to be kind of rough ride. I mean, Saquon Barkley's going to have to do a hell of a lot of running like he did on Saturday, man, in order to make that happen.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, the quarterback there for the Nittany Lions,
McSorley.
He's really, I thought he's really turned it on and showing his ability to run. And that's important for the running game of the Nittany Lions because at times this year, and it gets very easy for a defense, when the only guy that's gaining yards on you is one guy, Saquon Barkley in this case. And it was just great to see Trace McSorley be able to run the football the way he did. That's huge.
Well, not only just run, but he's also hitting some of those receivers, in mid-stride, and that's kind of good because that says to me that there's really a camaraderie between he and these receivers now. I mean, they're beginning to connect as well. But here's one of the things I wanted to kind of touch on this while we're talking about Penn State and that win against Maryland over the weekend. It seems to me that the kicker, what is his name, Joey Julius, is becoming a target these days. Here again, this kid's in the crosshairs over the weekend. It seems like the Big Ten is putting this bulletin board material on their bulletin boards as they come into Beaver Stadium or wherever they play this kid. And this weekend again, he took a hit, and the guy got ejected from the game. What is that all about, man?
They're just PO'd because he got a big hit in on somebody in an earlier game, and I forget which game it was.
It's that Minnesota game, I think. Yeah, Minnesota's Jalen Walters. Well, he did the honors last week, but it was, I forget the game, but anyhow.
Yeah, wherever it was, here's what the Big Ten has to step into this and either have a conference call with the coaches,
right,
or individual phone calls to the teams that are going to be playing Penn State and say, okay, enough is enough. Okay, whatever point you want to prove, because they got a guy that's big and can hit other people,
right?
Unlike most kickers in the game, that doesn't mean you go out and you headhunt on them every game.
Well, most kickers, most kickers shy away from that hitting stuff, man. Come on.
Oh, absolutely. But the bottom line is, at some point, it's going to be. I just think that the Big Ten Conference has to make a statement, and not to protect him from being tackled in a regular situation. I mean, that's all well and good.
Yeah.
But these have been headhunting journeys that have been taken at Julius, and I think they need to make a statement.
It's getting old.
This will not be tolerated.
Yeah, it's getting old now. I mean, 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to get the message out there. Look, man, hey, this guy's only doing his job. He wasn't anywhere near a play the last 2 weekends in order to take those hits. It's sort of like the bully in the schoolyard. It's a wonder, and if it weren't Penn State, any other team, I mean, if that had happened to Florida State or, maybe one of those SEC schools, there'd have been an all-out brawl on the field. There was no stopping it. Yeah. I saw Franklin run out there pushing his players back, but the reality was, man, it's like, if you do this in another league, people are going to go ballistic.
Yeah.
and I don't blame them.
Absolutely. And I think it's time for the Big Ten to step in and say, okay, enough's enough. You guys proved your point.
Right.
And it's like, okay, if he's involved in the play,
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and do what you do as a special teams player. But if he's not involved in the play, then, act like a civilized person out there, as civilized as you can be. Football's a very violent game.
Oh, no
However,
doubt.
that being said, it's not to the point where it's a riot when you go out there.
Yeah.
It's still a game, and play it as such.
Yeah, I we could do all the talking what I want to do, but we'll see if the Big Ten indeed takes any kind of action on that.
Yeah.
Monday Night Sports Talk, it's Greg Banks in the studio. We've got Dave Shannon, of course, in Altoona tonight. Normally, Jimmy Ty's with us. He's working. He's getting that double overtime, he said, when he called me around 4 o'clock this afternoon. I said, go for it, Jimmy.
Wow, that means he's making, what, $10 an hour?
We'll make an extra few bucks. Well, he was working a state gig, and I don't know what they pay, but you know how the state and those government jobs.
Not enough.
Yeah, not enough. Not for the game he has. But listen, the other game I watched on Saturday was the Pitt game. Pitt, Georgia Tech convinced me that, there's no defense normally on that Pitt team. They got to work on that. Obviously, it comes down to the last play of the game in overtime.
The ball last.
They're giving me heart attacks every week as I'm watching things happening there. And I don't know. We had tackle Brian O'Neill, took a throwback screen pass from Nathan Peterman behind the line of scrimmage. Plenty of room to run. The big guy rumbled, picking up blockers, rumbling down the sideline for a 24-yard score to give, of course, the Panthers the early lead in that game. So there are these guys that we don't even expect to score that are scoring for Pitt. Meanwhile, James, what's his name, Connor, he's scoring from time to time, but we don't have any defense. And I hate to tell you this, but as I look at the Pitt schedule and they get deeper into this season, somebody better step up and start scoring or stopping these scores, because there's only so much scoring that can be done in a game. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's very seldom a success formula for any team.
Man.
That you're just, playing every game, that whoever has the football last is going to be the winner of the game, because you have no way to stop them. They're not stopping you because you do have a potent offense. And, normally the way that ends up, Greg, is you end up with a 500 season.
Yeah. But
simply because there are some teams that you can get away with that on, and there are other teams that you just can't. And just thinking back to that Penn State game, oh my goodness, that just drove me crazy. To watch that game, because that was literally the whoever gets the ball last. Penn State made a little bit of a charge there to actually get back in the game, to the point where if they would have had the ball last, they may have been able to tie the game. But bottom line is, that's going to produce about a 500 season, because some games you're going to get away with it, other games you won't. That's a big win, though.
Oh, it is.
That's a big win.
They all count. And, the cool thing, and the reason I mentioned O'Neill, is because it's really cool to see a fat guy or this guy weighed 300 pounds, 6'6". He was number 70. I watched them flare it, out to him, and he just rumbled. I'm like, is he even eligible? Well, he was eligible in that play against Georgia Tech. For that play, because you got to announce that to the referees.
Right.
Basically, he wore number 70, and when a guy number 70 scores a touchdown, your thoughts are like, dude, a lineman just scored a touchdown for Pitt. And I love their uniforms, those throwback uniforms. I wish they wore those every game, because I remember Tony Dorsett wearing those uniforms, back in the day. Those were the uniforms. Yeah, and Marino and those guys, that's what they wore. Those were the colors that I remember Pitt wearing back in the day. So, anyhow,
And by the way, speaking of throwbacks, thank God the Steelers are done with the Bumblebees.
Yeah, let me ask you this. What do you mean by done? Now, yesterday was the last game, right?
They signed a contract with the jersey, I think Reebok's the jersey company.
Okay.
And they signed a contract with them that, This is the jersey we're going to use for the next 5 years.
Okay.
It's going to be done by you. This is our throwback jersey.
No deviations.
We're going to use it one game a year.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to be. And they signed up for that for 5 years.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why you do that. I'd be signing a yearly contract and just keep changing it up as the years went by.
Well, you know.
But that thank God it's gone.
Those uniforms always
reminded
reminded me of a jailbreak, man. And they tell me they wore those back in the 30s. Well, listen, why do you have to keep repeating history? You know?
Yeah. Some things are meant to stay in the past.
Yeah, and I guarantee you the Steelers weren't all that good back in the 30s. It's like, okay, we start using throwback jerseys from the Penguins back in the 60s. We're not going to be winning very many games. You know what I mean? So, okay. So, anyway, Monday Night Sports Talk here on the airnetwork.net. Let me just touch on this football score. Oh, something like 78-0 Michigan over Rutgers. Come on, man. Let's throw Rutgers out of this league. It's not even significant. They're in the Big Ten. I don't think they belong there, Dave. I mean, what's your thought on that? Come on. I know he had a bad day, you know, and Harbaugh's going to run up the score on anybody he can play, but come on now. That gets ridiculous.
Yeah, well, and there's one other one that I'm going to throw out there. I am sick of. I am sick. Hear me, ESPN, ABC, or any of the other networks that carry football, one of which would be Fox. I don't want to see Alabama until the frickin' season's over and they're playing for the championship because that's what's going to happen.
Right.
Okay, I am sick and tired of anybody paying any attention to Alabama at all.
They're on every week, Dave. They're on every week. They played Arkansas over the weekend. You know, they thought that was going to be a good game.
Yeah, no, there isn't going to be a good game against Alabama until you get to the postseason for college football. Mm-hmm. So show me them then, okay? Put them on ESPNU because I don't care.
You're wasting space, really, basically, of putting them on a major network. Let me ask you about this weekend, which was weird, especially if you lived in the southeastern part of the country. We knew that Wednesday that there was a hurricane moving in from the Caribbean, and, of course, Haiti. We pray for those folks, and our thoughts and prayers are with all those folks down there who had lost their lives, and they were just rebounding from the earthquake from a few years ago, and that's sad. But there was a decision made on Thursday, LSU versus, I believe it was it Miami? They were to play, or Florida maybe it was.
No, Florida.
Okay, so the decision was made Thursday. You had to make a decision because you can't have these people traveling to watch a game. I watched that Notre Dame game. That was deplorable. That made no sense in hell. While you would play during a hurricane, the punter, the center couldn't even snap the ball, Dave. That's how bad it was, and Notre Dame ended up getting beat by, I believe it was North Carolina. When you knew that this storm was coming, you should have shut it down and said, maybe we'll play Sunday, or somebody could have played tonight. Well, here with LSU and Florida, they shut that game down on Thursday. They decided not to play it. They got to figure out when to put it on their schedule. They both have insignificant games on October the 19th. I believe one plays Votech from Alabama, which I've never heard of them before, and the other one plays Louisiana Tech slash Beaumont. You get my drift. Okay, let those two teams play, give them the money, and then you bring this game together so that they can play on the 19th. But this is one of those calls you got to make. People are now upset, saying, well, Jesus, you should have had the game on Sunday. Well, who has that kind of sight when you're told that there's a major hurricane coming in? Do you understand the relevance of what I'm saying? Why would a fan want to go to any of those games? That Notre Dame game, there was hardly anybody in the damn stands.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, that it is kind of insane to insist that you have to play that game.
How important is college football compared to the lives of people?
Yeah, and the additional fact that you have people coming in and they may be able to get there, and then the hurricane hits, and then they can't get back home.
Exactly. That's my point. That was my point. So now, hindsight's 2020. They didn't play the game, okay? Yes, they might have been able to schedule it for Monday if we knew exactly what the forecast was. But I got to believe if I'm Brian Kelly right now, I'm pissed that my team lost Notre Dame because both teams, it was sloppy conditions. You couldn't even watch that game on television.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall a game that we watched in our youth. Maybe it was Green Bay, and they decided to do that game one day, and it was Chicago. It was fogged out the whole game. You couldn't even see the field.
The
and they
game,
televised that game nationally.
Yeah, and you couldn't tell who was on the field even.
You couldn't even see the field.
Yeah, yep.
They tried to use the sideline cameras, and they still couldn't see. Like, once the player ran from the sideline into that mist, he was gone. Oh, Lord.
Yeah. No,
all right.
Sometimes we have our priorities a little out of whack.
Yes, we do. But, I mean, we're sports fans, and I think everything evolves around us, quite frankly. And we don't care about debates. Continue to debate. But there was a good game on last night with the Giants.
Yeah. Hey, one thing we did miss, and I want to throw this in. I know we're in college football right
go
now.
ahead.
I was blown away by the fact that the Eagles lost their game.
How about that? Yeah.
Against Detroit of all teams.
I know.
And it's because you have a fumble at the end of the game. Detroit still can't even move the football.
Right.
You fumbled deep in your own territory. They can't even get it in the end zone. And they have to kick a field goal, and they end up beating you. Unbelievable.
Well, here again.
That team manhandled the Steelers the way they did.
I know.
And then lost the way they did yesterday.
But is that not one of those games that we looked at on our schedule and said, "Oh, we'll take that game"? It's when we play Cleveland coming up or Cincinnati, we already know that's their Super Bowl. And I don't care if they went 0-16. I mean, if they could go 1-15, and that one was the Steelers, those people in Cincinnati and Cleveland are happy. I mean, they're going to be happy. So I think that's what happened in the Philadelphia case. Maybe they let down in that game against Detroit. But any given Sunday, that's the kind of stuff that's going to happen. And in most instances, it does. It's Monday Night Sports Talk. Dave Shannon live in Altoona. Greg Banks here in the studio tonight. And, of course, Jimmy Ty usually joins us. He's working this evening on Indigenous Day. I think they call it Indigenous People Day or Christopher Columbus holiday or whatever. But, Dave, let's talk real quick about baseball. Major League scores. Washington Nationals, last check, top of the eighth, leading the Dodgers 4-3. Cleveland Indians, surprise, now defeating the Red Sox in the top of the fifth 2-0.
This has blown me away.
Red Sox might be going home tonight, man. I mean, this might be all over for Big Papi.
The Cleveland is that good of a team.
Yeah.
And they have certainly proven themselves. And they're facing one of the best pitchers that the Red Sox had during the end of the season in Clay Buchholz. And they're ahead in the game 2-0. And, I'm just very impressed with that team and what they've been able to do.
That's definitely a surprising series as Cleveland leads that, of course, series. What is it, 3-0? They could go 4-0 tonight. Well, no, actually, because that's best of five,
2-0. This is best of five.
Well, so they win tonight. It's over for the Red Sox. And so if you're not watching television, well, don't watch now. Listen to us. But you can go check that game out on TBS in a few minutes as we wrap up, probably in about 10 minutes or so. Red Sox getting beat 2-0. Let me ask you about that Nationals-Dodgers campaign. Did you think that was going to go any different than it has been going? Nationals now top of the eighth, leading that game 4-3.
Yeah, I thought this was the Dodgers series. I thought
it was
going to be the Cubs and the Dodgers for the National League Championship. And now I'm having my doubts. But I'll tell you what, at the beginning I thought, man, I got it dead on because Max Scherzer is the first game starter for the Nats, and he loses. And I thought, they're on that downhill spiral that they've been in. Yeah,
we never thought the Nationals would even get this far. I mean, seriously. I mean, you know, this is like a big surprise. I know Chad States has to be probably whistling Dixie about right now. Of course, his Yankees never did anything, but the Nats, they're still staying alive in that series.
Yeah,
so.
and could go up 2-1 if they win this one and be one win away from making it to the championship series. The other one that blew me away, the Texas Rangers and Toronto Blue Jays.
There you go.
I no way expected the Blue Jays to so authoritatively take out.
Oh, man, Dave, there were scores there that I didn't even think they had in baseball.
Yeah, I just unbelievable that the Rangers were caught that far off guard and ended up really having a horrible postseason there. And I feel for them, too, because I always did like Jeff Bannister when he was with the Pirates. And, kind of rooting for the guy because he was a good guy with the Bucks. And son of a gun. I mean, there they are. The Blue Jays are right back in it.
Which goes to prove.
Speaking of Pirates, a lot of people refer to the Blue Jays as Pittsburgh North.
Yeah, exactly.
How many guys are up there?
Exactly. And here's the other thing interesting about Toronto. This Canadians play just as well in baseball as they do in hockey. And guess what? There are very few Canadians, if any, on that damn team. But, hey, there again, Hey, listen, this is the premier matchup, though. The Cubs and Giants. You got Baumgartner out on the hill again, probably coming up in that game later on tonight. I don't know if he's scheduled to pitch or not. Hey, we got a situation here. This guy has pitched, I don't know how many series, basically shutting people down. The Cubs, man, it's all over the wall here. The Cubs pretty much are going to take this thing unless he comes up with a fine performance probably tonight. I mean, that's just how it's going to go down.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens because his mound opponent tonight is Jake Arrieta. Now, Arrieta, of course, Pirates fans would know him as a Pirate killer.
There you go. Yeah.
And, and Arrieta has had the Bucks numbers, except here at the end of the season. Jake Arrieta did not have a very good end to his season, so I'm going to be curious to see how he comes out against the Giants tonight. And if Baumgartner is Baumgartner of typical postseason play,
right,
the Giants might get a win here and force that to a fourth game.
That would be cool. That would be cool because I know there are a lot of Cub fans out there. And one of the things is I know they're breathing kind of heavily these days because, there's always in the back of your mind,
oh, yeah,
as good as these Cubs are, man, what if there is a sudden disaster? What if there is like this letdown, man? Because they live with that so long that
I think that's
know.
More the fans, though, than
it's
the
a
team.
Fear. No doubt.
I get it. Believe me.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I think it's more the fans than the team because I think that team believes in itself so much.
Yeah.
And, there is that aspect of it. If somebody can get it, if they can get it to the eighth inning and be ahead by a run,
right?
Aroldis Chapman is just lights out for the most part. I've seen him get touched up a couple of times. But, for my money, if I have a chance to have Chapman as my closer, I'm taking it.
That guy's been throughout the league, man. I mean, you know what? And every time he shows up somewhere, he is firing heat. So I'm looking forward to seeing him on the mound before the series ends again. And, of course, tonight at 9:38, that game between the Cubs and the Giants gets underway on Fox Sports 1. Hey, Dave, listen, we got about 8 minutes. Let's wrap it up in 8 minutes, talk a little bit about hockey. Let me run these spots, and then we'll be back with more Monday Night Sports Talk. Dave Shannon in Altoona. We got Greg Banks in the studio in Huntington tonight, and we'll be back with more Monday Night Sports Talk right after this. Stick around.
Pennsylvania Highlands Community College provides you the option to earn an associate degree, diploma, or certificate at an affordable cost. The Penn Highlands Huntington Center, located on Margie Drive in Huntington, offers degree programs in business management, criminal justice, liberal arts and sciences, and psychology. Are you ready to take the next step on your career path? Contact Penn Highlands Huntington at 814-643-6200 or visit Penn Highlands Community College online at pennhighlands.edu.
Grab the Big Kahuna, the 24-cut square cut pizza with your choice of topping for only $19.99 now at All American Pizza and Subs at 512 Washington Street in downtown Huntington. All American Pizza and Subs has delivery, and they're your home for great pizzas, subs, salads, wings, and more for lunch, dinner, or a late-night snack. If you're thinking about great food at a great price, stop by or call All American Pizza and Subs in downtown Huntington. Call 643-0222. Closed Mondays. All American Pizza and Subs. Like us on Facebook.
Brenneman's Meat Markets are celebrating nearly 70 years in providing Huntingdon County with quality USDA-approved processed pork, chicken, and beef products. Brenneman's has 2 locations in the county where the tradition of the finest meats are found in the region. Stop by Brenneman's Huntingdon weekdays from 8 to 6, Saturdays 8 to 3. Mount Union, open 9 to 5 weekdays and 9 to 2 on Saturdays. Choose specials of $10 to $50 meat packs containing your favorite meats. Or stop by and ask about our select custom cuts, prepared and packaged while you wait. Brenneman's Meat Markets in Huntingdon and Mount Union. Call our office at 814-643-2751 for specials and more information.
Mel's Concrete in Huntingdon has over 20 years' experience in providing you with quality concrete work. When you have any job dealing with concrete, call Mel Woomer at 643-0909. Mel's Concrete specializing in porches, patios, basements, sidewalks, and more. Mel's Concrete also specializes in snow removal. There's no job too big or too small when it comes to concrete. Call Mel's Concrete, LLC at 643-0909. It's Monday Night Sports Talk on the AirNetwork.net, the home of the Huntingdon Bearcats. Bearcats take on Phillipsburg Osceola Friday night. Airtime 6:40 with Chad States and Jim Zalzik. You won't want to miss it. It's Huntingdon Bearcat football live on the AirNetwork.net. And as we've got about 5 minutes left on this edition of Monday Night Sports Talk, Dave, some disturbing news that we found out earlier today. Maybe you'll want to share it with the Penguin fans, rather you than me.
Yeah. Well, of course, everyone was wondering where Sidney Crosby was in the final preseason game that was played on Saturday. And that game at PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh, and he was basically you had the starters played that last game, and of course Sidney Crosby was not there. At that point, it was referred to as nothing other than an illness, and now we've come to find out today that Sidney actually suffered a concussion during practice on Friday, and just proving, I think, that he does everything full bore. Doesn't matter when it is, whether it's a practice, whether it's a preseason, whatever it is. Right. Sidney Crosby gives you his top game no matter what. And every once in a while, something's going to happen that's, not good. In this case, he suffered a concussion, and he will probably not play against the Washington Capitals here in the season opener coming up on Thursday.
Yeah.
So, it's bad news. The Penguins have been able to play without Sidney before. I think they'll be able to survive without Sidney again. And, it's just one of those things that I would rather they err on the side of caution.
Right.
And if it takes a while for him to get back, it takes a while.
But we understood, when was that, 2 years ago? I mean, he lost half of the season.
Quite a number of years ago, he lost. It
was like 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, it was in recent history that we can remember. And you know what? Once he went out, I mean, there were a lot of question marks. I mean, it's like, when are you coming back? I mean, there's a lot of waiting. I mean, I don't know how many games he lost. It was like almost half the season. At least it felt that way anyhow. And I think the concern is that this might be, well, obviously, anytime you have a concussion or a possible concussion, you could be out for a long period of time. And the season's going to start on Thursday at 8 o'clock.
Well, as I say, I mean, I think there are enough players on that team that can obviously not totally take the place of Sidney Crosby. He does so many things that you cannot, that you can't really lay your fingers on unless you're a real student of the game and you're watching what he's doing away from the play. Yeah. Because that's where Sidney Crosby excels. Mm-hmm. He draws so much attention to himself as well because he is Sidney Crosby. And that, of course, makes the defense react a certain way, leaving the other players on his line the opportunity to score goals. And Sidney's generally, even though he's being pressured, normally 2-on-1, no matter what the situation, he's still able to get a pass through to one of his line mates to get a shot on goal. So that's the only thing. I think they can fill his spot with someone. Yeah,
for the time being. But we don't want to see the guy out all season. Let me ask you this. As we wrap things up here, got about a minute and a half to go. The goaltender. I mean, we're coming off of a Stanley Cup, of course, another one for 2016, or at least 2015-16. Who's in goal this year? I mean, what changes will there be? What are we expecting as we preview this thing starting on Thursday?
Well, because of Matt Murray suffering the broken hand, obviously that's going to keep him out for a while yet. I think the early end that they suspected he may be back was 4 weeks, but it was initially said 4 to 6 weeks. And really, the way Tristan Jarry has played in net for the Penguins, I think this is going to be Fleury's job to start.
Yeah.
They're going to have a competent backup in Jarry to start the season. And when Murray gets healthy again and is able to be out there, then he's going to be Fleury's backup. If Fleury falters, Murray will be back in the nets, maybe as the starter again. But for right now, Marc-Andre Fleury, or as I call him, 3 goals a game Fleury, is going to be your starting goaltender.
Hey, he ain't getting no younger, man. But you know what? It's good to have a veteran in net, at least to start this season. And we'll see how it goes from there, man. Hey, listen.
Sure.
Console Energy Center. The name has been changed. What'd you call it? I mean,
It's
at least
PPG Paints Arena.
PPG Paints Arena. I thought PPG went out of business.
Actually, it's PPG Paints Place.
Okay.
Something like that. There's a lot of alliteration there.
Well, let me ask you about that alliteration. Does that mean the concerts now are going to be at PPG, or are they going to be at Console Energy Center?
No, they're going to be a PPG.
They paid the money, huh?
Yeah.
Hey,
their
Console.
name's on the outside of the arena now.
You're out of there, man. Hey, you come with
You
come with
give us
some
the money,
hey.
you can put your name there, and Console Energy didn't have the money.
Well,
anymore.
I'm going to put it this way. Console Energy, you ain't got to pay me $1 billion. I'll name the studio anything you want me to name it here at the Air Network. You just throw me $1 million, and Dave and I will be the happiest guys in the world.
Yay!
Dave, we'll do live reach for them for a whole freaking hour if we have to.
There you go, baby.
All right, Dave Shannon, thank you, man, for joining us tonight on Monday Night Sports Talk, dude.
Thank you, Frank.
All right, we'll do it again next Monday. By the way, listen for this show tonight to be retransmitted. We call it restreaming. Again tonight at 10 o'clock. And, of course, listen throughout the week. It'll be on our front page. Thanks for listening to the airnetwork.net and, more importantly, Monday Night Sports Talk. We'll see you again next Monday night at 7 p.m. So long, folks.